you all were welcome back to the Kingdom of Ember. People began spotting you in the streets as Sekarak told you of the amazing growth, both nature and society-based, that has occurred here. And when you decided not to speak with Beatrice and to tell her the awful news of Artemis, but you guys pressed on. You had a small encounter with Grumbles where you tried to bribe him into becoming your shed prophet. And you then proceeded on to the Coalfire Keep, where you met with the king and queen and a new friend from the Society of Brilliance, Sussaro Umbernut, and his manservant, Rickard Bronte. And you guys have now sat down with everybody here, with Stool, your new Brilliance friends, and the king and queen, and you're here to discuss strategy. You don't possess an answer yet, either from the society or from independent research, as to how the demon lords got here, and kind of like what the aims are and how to cut off this horrible rampage that they have going on here in the Underdark, how to stop their ever-growing sphere of influence. And so you have decided, in your efforts to continue to search for that answer, you're going to attend to the more immediate needs of things that you can handle. And so we're gonna go back and forth here. We're gonna talk a little bit of shop and some role play thrown in as you guys figure out and tell everybody here what your plans are. So what do you think, as you sit here with the king and queen and everybody, is kind of priority numero uno that you, the party, want to get done in this time?
I know Scylla is interested in being a sort of, based on her Battlemaster background, helping to train like the forces, which probably means like getting with Weth and like really getting more people involved, and perhaps even like training up like an elite team, a strike team, to go out and conquer like fiends in the tunnels and like bringing people back for interrogations. The second thing that Syl is really interested in is what Sephel was talking about last time, which is, or not Sephel, Sussaro was talking about, which is scouting the area and kind of like not necessarily doing that herself, but being involved in the planning of that.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I think Sephel is very interested in sort of forming that research committee, like getting the best minds together to both scour all of the information available in the city and find it elsewhere, to try to understand the threat better and find, better information, funding scouting parties and hiring people for that, so they can go out and like get a full scale scope of what's going on in the Underdark. Try to find the source of the demon incursion, which we have yet to do.
And Sussaro can either get on board or get out. I'm just kidding.
Amen, brother.
Just kidding.
Well, luckily for you, Sussaro's goals, especially representing the society's interests, are to like use this opportunity as a groundwork moment for like connecting different societies, so they can act as a unified front. So working on a strategy around like diplomatic missions to other areas, as well as the kind of core issue of what is causing this demonic incursion. We have several theories that all have like decent weight to them, but we need to get serious about finding the source so we can nip it.
Okay.
I think sorry.
No, go ahead.
The scouting side of it, my gut instinct says it's a matter of like, do we even have a map of like the Underdark? And if we do, like plotting those, if we don't even have a map, like just like plotting the cities where we think they are in our mind compared to like the lake and like where we left for the surface. And then like I imagine this is like a map that just continues to grow with detail, and that we're like connecting where all of these instances are and where we're seeing like these hot levels of activity.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
that
think
could
that's
be
definitely
one of
part.
those things to do, is to have a map created.
Yeah.
Because as far as you could tell, like the king and queen have been mapping in small amounts with the scale guard, but nothing of a greater spread. So that seems like a great goal, is to map cities where instances have happened. Okay.
Mm-hmm. We want a heat map of fiends.
Yeah.
All right. What else? What else is the party thinking here? Or how do you guys want to go about some of these things as well, when you're talking with them? And this doesn't, in the moment that we're speaking here too, this can be happening over the course of several days, like these ongoing discussions. It's not something that has to be like, burning the midnight oil, so to speak.
Yeah.
No, this can be threaded throughout.
Mm-hmm.
What I think would be really good to have is like in the sort of search for information, is getting like almost plants, like spies, to like put in cities and sort of get a lay of how societies are continuing to fare, and
absolutely
someone who would go stay in Gracklestug and like report, like send missives back on the continued state of the city, any weird goings on, like have a constant info feed of the status of these places that we're looking.
Love that. I even think we could probably get someone to like get a how to disguise or something and like go to Menzo Branson and be that same person there as well.
Ooh, yeah.
They get paid a lot of money for it.
Yes, they are the highest paid scout.
Yes, right. I also like the idea of having, I kind of mentioned already, but like an elite strike force of like essentially another party of adventurers who can like go out, find like, oh, we've got news from our scouts that there are fiends in this area. They go out, they capture them, they bring them back, and then we get information in that way from like the source. And also potentially unethical, however, finding ways to like fight the fiends in ways that are like, what are their vulnerabilities?
Okay. All right.
So Scylla wants a CIA intelligence network and several CIA black sites.
Yes,
correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
And let me be
Thank
clear,
you.
I'm for it.
I want to be very upfront about something. The Geneva Convention does not exist in Faerun.
And you know what? Maybe we make it once it's all over.
maybe, or maybe not.
Or maybe we just say goodbye.
I mean, it's now
what if
established
another one-
canon. You don't follow laws, so why
Yeah,
are you
right.
implementing them?
Right.
Hey, Sephel has said a lot of things that he doesn't fully believe in, but Grumbles doesn't need to know that.
Okay.
And I think that on occasion, Scylla would accompany this task force, this elite team.
Okay. All right.
Sort of like capture high value targets, interrogate them for information.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nice.
And then how do you guys feel like you want to tackle research other than torturing demons or spying on people? Because you have the library here in the city, you have Sekarak's own study, you have Mr. Umbernut with his wealth of connections and his own knowledge as well. Because I know that was something you guys had talked about.
Yeah.
So
I mean, my idea for that was literally like Sephel, Sekarak, maybe Umbernut, and whatever resources the Society of Brilliance has, like literally just spend days in the libraries, in, halls of study, just pouring through tomes of information, trying to find pertinent, like, knowledge.
I'd also be interested in bringing back the Ferez crystals. I feel like there could be some potential there that like, oh, we're out interrogating demons and we bring you back crystals and that helps your research.
So you think there's a connection between the Ferez and the demons, and you want that to be investigated?
I think there's either a connection or there's potential for us to harness the power of the Ferez.
I love that angle because I think, this is an incursion taking place in the Underdark. Let's use the Underdark's resources.
Yeah.
Everything from the Ferez to the freaking purple worms is all part of this milieu.
Let's tame a worm.
In a really like weird magic forensics way, I almost think too of like Fered. Ooh, coin that. I can't say it, but coin it.
Yeah.
No, like almost like carbon dating, where it's like there might just be, demonic particles that have permeated into the Ferez. Like the Ferez is fucking everywhere, so you can harness parts of it from different areas, study all of the forces that have tainted that magic, and be like, oh, there was some heavy demonic properties in this. Maybe they're like concentrated around there, or they're doing shit around there. Like they've tainted the magic of the area.
Now, Andrew said purple worm. I'm just saying that like one of my favorite things in Baldur's Gate is purple worm toxin.
Well, hey, we know an alchemist / herbalist, do we not?
You do.
Sue?
Sue and Beatrice are both very acclaimed individuals with those powers, those remedies.
Yeah, I think we support them with the resources they need to create really intense weaponry.
And we just saw in the last session that the Myconids are really good at finding alchemical ingredients and that sort of art. Maybe we can like put together a team led by Sue.
Absolutely.
That sort of heads that.
So let me get this straight. You guys want to start a intelligence network and a biological weapons laboratory?
Yeah, you gotta have
like
both.
it's where it's going. And it sounds like a Quantico is going to be started up pretty quick here too.
Listen,
right.
you can know about all the nukes your enemy has, but if you don't have nukes yourself, why even bother knowing about them?
Yeah, Demogorgon's basically a nuke.
I thought that's why we had you.
So does that mean like Dagon's a hydrogen bomb? Like how do you guys evaluate threat targets?
For sure.
Yeah.
No, so Dagon is like, he's the super volcano underneath Yellowstone.
Yeah.
He is truly apocalyptic and also older than time.
Yeah. He's just waiting on one like stray vibration to blow that hole wide open.
Oh, look, a planet-killing event. Whoopsie.
Whoopsie. All right. This is a super solid start for plans here. I know I'm just going to bring a couple personal character notes that I know everybody's kind of talked about here, and in private chats too. I know, Sam, you had been curious about kind of training up Scylla for different methods of attack and maneuvers. Do you think that this is a time too, when she's training with others, that like she would be trying to develop demonic type counter maneuvers or anything like that? Okay.
Anything that she, like any sort of information she learns that is like a weak spot, like every demon has a bad left ankle. Done. I have a maneuver for that. Like it's exactly what
the Achilles heel.
Yeah, right.
she's
definitely training up those maneuvers. Maybe it's with like specially designed weapons or something. I don't know. Or like she's like, I don't know, somehow like putting the purple worm toxin on like her fins, or like, I don't know.
So you're looking into possible demonic specific weapon development and techniques.
Yeah.
And then
just like, where's their everybody's got like things that are their blind spot. What's the weakness or blind spot for them?
Love that. And then Brendan, you and I had talked about, you've I mean, ever since your staff has been made, you've been hugely curious about finding more of these crystals to enhance your staff. And you've now potentially have a lot of time to develop more spells. And now you're here with Sekrak, who you have shared in the past much of your knowledge and back and forth. Do you think this is a time that you're especially with you guys being like, let's harness the power of the Ferez possibly? Do you think that's something that Sephel is trying to like kind of keep into his wheelhouse?
Absolutely.
Of like combine all that?
I think he has 2 spells that we've talked about at length at this point, that he definitely is ready to sit and take some time and resources and finalize those, and perhaps start brainstorming a couple more, especially if research into the Ferez bears any fruit. I'm sure he would love to start playing around with that and see the applications and how he can mix that with his own magics.
Sure.
I also think that he sort of let this thread go of tracking down these crystals, and because it started getting, things were just getting too out of hand. He didn't feel like it was appropriate to break away and explore this. But if they're going to have people looking into things and perhaps exploring on their behalf, I think he's definitely going to want to reopen the investigation into Akar Kessel and his crystals, and perhaps enhancing his staff if they can find any.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, Andrew, I know Sussaro has been with us only for an episode, but I know you've got lots of thoughts and ideas carried over from the entirety of this campaign. What do you think are Sussaro's efforts here, or what things do you think he wants to develop potentially?
I think one of Sussaro's main goals here is to stop us from looking at this as a series of battles that we're fighting isolated, and start coalescing us into fighting a war, to kind of stretching us into a more strategic and less reactive stance. And kind of viewing, these new heroes who just walked into his life as a scalpel, which can be wielded at this issue instead of a blunt axe, something that we can get to the heart of things.
Okay. Is Sussaro a doctor?
No.
He really had an opportunity to be Dr. Seuss there, and he fucked it.
Fuck.
Hey, Will, several changes that I need to make to my character.
I mean, do you want him to be Dr. Umbernut, Dr. Sussaro,
Dr. Nut?
Yes.
Seuss Nut?
Dr. Nuts here, baby.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Andrew, maybe you should actually care the next time you make a character.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Maybe put some thought into it and actually give a fuck.
Sussaro gets a nosebleed and falls over. It looks almost exactly like him walks in. I'm his brother.
Tale as old as time.
Oh my god.
So it sounds like Dr. Umbernut, Dr. Seuss here, is potentially leading a mixture of both research, but perhaps like the map development of the Underdark, and is perhaps becoming kind of with like that kind of knowledge in hand, because you've been traversing the Underdark for an extremely long time. You would probably be the foremost head on developing an actual map and how it relates both to the surface and the demonic incursions. Like, that's what you guys have been doing. So it sounds like you're going to kind of be, oh my God, this is giving me like Dragon Age kind of vibes, like the war table, like you're setting up the pawns and you're going, okay, here's where we are. Here's where we are. What resources? You're kind of setting that up and conferring with everybody and being like, here's how best to use our stuff. You're all generals, but Dr. Seuss here seems to kind of be like the head informant of that in a way.
I think he's very well positioned to that role, since again he's spent 100 years just kind of like bopping from place to place.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Loving this.
And he has a cartography kit and proficiency.
Absolutely. So I imagine this takes a long time. And I'm going to say this just for social standards. You get about halfway through all of this in your first discussion with the king and queen and your new companions, and eventually the king and queen are like, Queen Griselda's like, I think that is enough for one evening. We can absolutely continue this discussion tomorrow and perhaps begin recruiting those to administer these new changes into our communities, our lives, and how to change and protect ourselves at large. But I do think we should all get some much needed rest. And, well, we are perfectly happy to see you here, our friends. We would love to announce of your presence here to the city at large, though I'm sure the news has been spreading quite quickly as you've marched through the city. Would you care for us to make a formal announcement, or is that something you wish for us to leave off for the time being?
I mean, a formal announcement would probably sit with the populace well, especially coming from the king and council.
We can absolutely,
unless you have any objections.
I cannot say to understand the value of announcing that I am here, but if you would think it would be valuable, I am not against it.
I more so would rather people not believe we have slinked back in like criminals. I think an official and warm announcement of our return, especially with the way we left, would at least do the civilians well.
I see, yes. To some, the image of strength and support is important.
I think this is very wise counsel and something that would be much befitting considering the circumstances in which you left. I do not ask this for my own purposes, but there were some damages that were demanded of the people. Do you have the means to repay that debt? That would also go to help appease them, though I'm sure most have forgotten that, except for perhaps Sarvid Dwellin.
Yeah, was that... I'm asking because I genuinely can't remember. It was 20,000 or 2,000?
No, it was like 2,000 to 2,500 gold.
Okay.
Not much.
All right. I know it was 2. I couldn't remember how many zeros.
Yeah. It was more than we had at the time.
Yes.
It was
That's
way
true.
more.
We were broke back then.
Yeah.
Now you're billionaires, so you can
now we're like,
take it.
Take our pocket change. Here's 10,000.
I have
yes, Your Majesty.
2,500 here.
Yeah. I can tell you we do have the money, and I believe, she looks at Sephel, we are okay with paying it. But I must admit that the fact you are asking does come off a bit ungrateful.
Scylla, I think it is more than appropriate that we extend this as an act of good faith.
I, of course, agree with your judgment, Sephel. I'll get the money. She pulls into her bag.
The queen eventually takes the small satchel of gold, and she goes, do not think we are absolutely ungrateful for everything that you've done for us and continued to do for us here. My husband and I are certainly most grateful, and many within the city hold the same sentiments. It's truly just to appease those that felt more greatly offended before and lacked a place to dwell in, and those that had been affected when the hag infiltrated the city. Most have found better means, better livelihoods. We have had to push a little bit of our authority onto Dwellin to make conditions a bit more bearable for all involved. He did require some of our aid as well, so we use that as a means of negotiation to undermine some of his independent authority. Not that it was wholly wrong of him to have what he had for what he has done in the past, but we do have a future as a greater society to look forward to. And believe me, this will help many. And we are not ungrateful, Scylla.
I will hand you this money as I trust in Sephel. And I cannot say that I understand the politics involved and the ability of some to not see the rational events which occurred. However, it is also not something I am good at.
Perhaps the deeper side of politics is something that we can discuss at another time. But I won't keep you.
Scylla, in all honesty, I deeply treasure and envy that your mind is not bogged down by such poisons. You have a particular strength to speak straight and true.
There is no negative feeling on my side. And she hands the money over to Queen Griselda, which is probably weird because it's a lot of money.
I mean, in a sense, to you guys very recently, that was a lot of money, but now you have a literal hoard in your bag of holding.
I don't think we Sam, I guess this is up to us, but I don't feel like we should immediately tell them how much wealth we have. I think it's more of we'll fund this thing. We're sort of like a private benefactor where it's right. Oh, you need money, here's money, but we don't tell them how deep the pockets are.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
It's very fair.
I think it is a agreed upon thing, because although Scylla doesn't agree with greed, she understands how greed works.
Yeah.
Also, we'll say Sussaro just watching you pick out 2,000 individual gold coins out of your bag of holding. He's just
yeah, right.
Oh, if you don't think we slid at least 10 platinum in there as a power move.
Yeah, right.
Ting, ting, ting.
Couldn't you also go into your bag of holding and be you call out the amount of gold that you need?
Yeah, you could if you could hold that many.
Just dump it on the ground.
I guess. I mean, 2,000 gold pieces is quite a lot of gold.
Yeah.
Just hey, 2,500.
It's a weapon.
The queen's just
No, she would do it in a way that was appropriate, if that meant that she had to go to somebody and whatever.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
Excuse me, I need to go powder my nose. She just sits in the wash bay for 20 minutes getting
pulling it out. Yeah.
I imagine the king and queen are actually almost like a safety deposit box room. They set you aside and they're here, you can take your time, do what you need to, suss it out. There's a chest in the corner that you can leave it in when you're done. Yada yada. You guys take care of it. And when you come out, I think the king comes up to the two of you and goes, "There was a time when I offered your lodging here within Coalfire Keep, dreary though it is, but you had taken up a small room at the Serpent's Maw, and then before the unfortunate events with the hag and Mr. Dwellin, we had proposed to build you all lodging here within the city. Is that something that you would like to consider once again?"
I think the time we will spend here and the large-scale efforts that we will be undertaking, it would certainly behoove us to have a place where we could rest and recoup and operate from. If that is something that you are willing to do, I think we would be honored to finally take you up on it.
Of course. Well, there is perhaps less space than last time, but tomorrow we'll fold out a map of the city. Perhaps we'll pick a plot and begin designs.
That would be lovely. And I would like to add a small shed in the backyard for Rumbles, please. It is important.
It is important.
I will write it down in a note here.
It doesn't need to be
I'm writing
extravagant
it right now.
Doesn't need to be extravagant. A door, a window, a cot. That should do him.
For Grumble. Very well.
You know what? I'm feeling generous. Give him a carpet.
Also welcome.
You see a servant like over in a corner, and he's like, "He gets a fucking carpet? What the fuck?"
Learn some prophecies, and you'll get one yourself, you little shit.
He like immediately
My
stands up
value,
straight, like,
you
"Oh,
can
shit."
have a roof.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He's holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres, and he just like kind of bows his head like, "Oh."
Day 1, Indian can. The party have become despots.
Yes, they don't follow laws.
Hey, I left a despot, if it's any consolation.
Yeah. I imagine Dr. Seuss has taken up residence at the Serpent's Maw as well, right?
Yeah, I think that's an appropriate place because he, as much as he wants to get in good with the royal family, he also wants to kind of like check the temp of the city. I think that's probably the best place to do it.
Yeah. I imagine Ricard like comes over to you. Do you think Dr. Seuss has like a coat or a cape or a cloak or anything like that he wears?
He
that
has his fancy little cloak. You can hand it off to.
Okay, so Ricard comes over and he goes,
Nice.
"Sir, your cloak."
Thank you, Mr. Ricard. Yes, Mr. Bronte. I think he equips himself.
Dashing as ever, sir. And if I had to describe the look of Bronte to everybody here at the party, I said this to Andrew. I picture Mads Mikkelsen to fill that vibe. So like tall, serious, brooding. You almost get sinister vibes from him, but he's just very calm and collected. Like Scylla would immediately pick up that Ricard's dangerous. But he's like absolutely at the beck and call of Dr. Seuss.
Okay.
I do think at one point during this planning, while they're sort of talking about resources and what they're going to do, Sephel would take a moment with Vlad. It's sort of, I know, I don't want to leave you out of large-scale discussions that, determine a lot of our futures. You've been incredibly helpful, and your company has been very welcome. So is there anything in the coming weeks that you would like us to invest in? Any information you would like? Any actions that you think would be worthy to take as we get this war effort ready?
I think Vlad is a little surprised at first. He's and then he looks at you and he goes, I would certainly like to learn more of my kind if possible, either with Sekarak or perhaps through anything you might have in these books about. I'd love to stretch my wings. I didn't really get to explore the city proper, if possible, and be a bit more immersed amongst everyone. Besides Bligdenstone, I haven't really been able to observe people, and I find it more and more interesting by the day.
You have started to long for socializing and people, and I think I can certainly keep an eye out with Sekarak can add any information about your kind to our searchings. We'll already be pouring through tomes. That is an easy ask. But if I can be of any help, or you need anything from me, let me know. Do not think it is lost on me that I would not possibly be alive and certainly not have my staff if not for you. I will not forget that.
I do have something that's been troubling me, though. Are we not going to do anything for Pigmud and Quilzin and Vognit and all those we very briefly befriended in the swamp? Are we just going to leave them to the mercies of the River King? And you guys, like, I picture in Vlad's head, he's remembering the time where Scylla, like, encouraged him to go play with the other kids. You know, like, he hadn't been able to do that before, you know?
That has been weighing on my mind as well, and I must say, leaving was a choice of necessity. I'll tell you what, Scylla is heading training and establishing a strike force. I think it is more than reasonable that perhaps we send one such excursion back to the swamps and see if any progress can be made. I also feel bad leaving those small folk to their fates, as long as we are focusing on the larger effort at hand as well. But your heart is in the right place, and I think we should do something for them.
Thank you. As you guys are wrapping up here for the evening and kind of gather your things, stretch your bones, your bodies, and you begin to leave Coalfire Keep, there's, you know, I think Stool heads off with Sekarak. I imagine Vlad kind of seeking your permission to go with him because he's more comfortable kind of rooming back in the tower. Yeah. Which I think Sekarak had even like offered to you all that you could stay there or on that side of the city. I'm curious, like, I'm assuming Dr. Seuss is heading back to the Serpent's Maw. Are Sephel and Scylla heading back there, see if you can get your old room again, or are you staying Coalfire Keep? You got to go to the ruins. What are you thinking?
We have a lot of options.
Yeah, I don't really feel like we need to go back to the Serpent's Maw personally, and I feel like our days are probably going to be like meetings back to back, working with people constantly. Like, I could easily see at least Scylla like throwing herself into this work and like committing to it wholeheartedly in a way that like maybe she like stays at Coalfire Keep so that she can literally just run downstairs and join people in conversations or something.
I think Sephel would probably take Sekarak up on, like, they're probably there pouring through the bookcases and bookcases of ancient knowledge that Sekarak must have collected. Like, that's probably where they're heading most of their action. So it might even be for a while, like, the party is kind of split during this time, like checking in with each other, like council meetings, things like that, but they're sort of dividing their efforts into their specialties.
Sure. Sending stones.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think before we launch ourselves into the work that is ahead of us, King Boletaire, could I'm sure you must have fine storehouses here in the keep. Could I throw a little more coin your way for a fine bottle of wine?
He chuckles and smiles and he goes, yes, of course. And he looks to one of the servants that are there and speaks with him for a moment. And he goes, "It'll just be a minute." And a little while later, a very nice looking wine bottle comes up, and he hands it to you and goes, "Consider it a welcome back gift."
You have my thanks.
Andrew, I kind of said I figured you would probably head back to the Servants' Mall. We had talked about how you kind of felt inclined to observe more of the city, but considering everything you guys are trying to accomplish, do you think that has changed at all for Dr. Seuss?
I think there's still like a viable interest in him being in the mall, but he's not spending much time there. I think that's really just where he's sleeping. He's getting meals so he can get in contact with people, but he wants to be spending a lot of his time at either the keep or the tower, and also think that there's research to be done over at the Temple of Bahamut as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would say Sephel is definitely interfacing with Sussaro quite a lot, both from just the pursuit of knowledge and, I guess, information on the society and what resources they have, sort of putting minds together. I think is definitely something he'd want to pursue.
I would like to think there's like a daily briefing in which everybody's kind of involved, and then we separate, because I don't think Scylla's really that involved with Sussaro, but she's definitely like trying to stay in the know.
Stay abreast of what's going on.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So as you guys are kind of like all gathered here towards the entrance, as Dr. Seuss is about to head back to the mall for the night, Scylla, the servants are setting you up a room here in Coalfire Keep, and Sekarak, Sephel, Vlad, Stool all begin to head back towards the tower and the ruins. The lot of you see two individuals standing on the bridge outside of the gate. And I think it brings with it a sense of dread, because it's Beatrice and Sue. And
Sephel looks at the bottle of wine that he just acquired. Well, that makes this trip a lot quicker.
And I want everybody to roll insight checks here.
I mean, Scylla, upon seeing Sue, is going to run to Sue and give her a very large hug.
Okay. What you get for insight? 15?
15 on insight for Sephel.
13 plus 5, 18.
Nice.
Okay. Sue's eyes immediately meet yours, Scylla, and you can see that there's a little bit of sadness there, but like it doesn't reach her eyes, which are just glowing with happiness to see you again.
Okay, cool.
But you see that she has an arm touching Beatrice, and it's in a comforting gesture, because the both of you notice that Beatrice already has tears in her eyes as she sees you guys. And her hands are kind of like, she's wringing her hands, and she's just like, "Tell me it isn't so. Tell me he's back. Please tell me what the whispers I've overheard are not true."
I think Scylla ran forward, and when she saw that, she kind of like stopped to a halt like 5 feet away. And as she said that, it is true. I can tell you that he fought very bravely and saved many.
I don't care. I'm sure he did. That's who he was. But there was more to this life that he had with me, with us. And I counted on the two of you. I might not have said it, but it was there. This hope that you would bring him back. And she quickly turns around, and you can see as like her like skirts swish that there is a very small figure behind her, that she reaches down and picks up, and you see this new face looking over her shoulder as she begins to walk away. And you see it is this black scaled, kobold-esque looking figure, but they have a pair of horns that are kind of dark at the root that go white, and they have almost like this mane of like thorny scales that kind of come off the neck, and you can see that they have like these bright eyes, and you realize that she's holding a child that you guys didn't see before, but the coloring of this child immediately makes you think of Artemis.
What did you do? What the fuck did you do?
With
Scylla...
Beatrice's tears, she just begins to march off, and you can see this child is just like watching the lot of you over her shoulder.
Scylla is watching Beatrice, and she's not saying anything because I think Scylla knows that anything that she would say would only hurt the situation. But Scylla is thinking to herself that she knows that Starcaller had daddy issues, and that maybe would have transferred to that child, and it's a good thing he's dead.
Jesus.
That's what she's thinking. Thank you.
I mean,
why
would you say something so controversial yet so true?
Scylla's very rational about it. That kid won't have what she saw as a very like...
No, he'll just have dead daddy
presence.
issues.
Well, it turned out all right.
Oh, jury's still out.
No promises there. Look at me. I kill you guys left and right. I think I have issues.
I think Sephel has a side conversation with Balachair, or tries to. Basically along the lines of... Or he would like to. I don't know if now is the time. Mm-hmm. But Sephel decides in that moment that kid will never want for anything in its life.
Does Sue leave with her?
Hang on, I'll get to that in just a second. I think there's like one of those silent moments between you and the king, and you both nod at each other, like this mutual understanding of exactly that. And you guys will discuss it later. But Sue did not leave with Beatrice and her child. She kind of looks as Beatrice is left, but some of the things that stand out to you, Scylla, as you stand on the bridge with Sue here, is that a lot of her scars have gotten much smaller and very faded. You see that she has kind of a bandana over her head, but you can see bits of hair are poking through and regrowing, and she looks really good. She looks really, really good. And she is just staring up at you with such joy, and she kind of completes the thought that you had to give her a hug, and she immediately just bear hugs you. And compared to when you last left her, where she was weak and she was fragile, you feel a return of strength that I would maybe imagine brings a lot of comfort to Scylla to feel again.
Absolutely. Sue, I think she like holds her back, and like she's got like a really strong grip on her shoulders and is like looking down at her. You have such strength compared to when I last saw you, and I can see your personality in your eyes, and I missed you so much.
I missed you too. It's been too long, and I want to hear every bit of it.
I want to hear what you've been up to as well.
And she doesn't know what to say, but she just like barrels into you again to hug you, because you had been through so much before everything. And I think she pulls back and she like yanks you down to her height, and she like grabs the two sides of your face and she goes, "You will not spare a detail as we share some drinks, as I hear your journey to your return." And that's where we'll leave it tonight.
Hey everyone, welcome to the end of the episode. 2 quick announcements for you. You've already heard us say it 100 times. We have a Discord. What are you waiting for? Get in here. We have so many amazing like-minded DMs in there. A lot of players as well, people new to D&D. Some people have been in there a long time, and everyone's just having a nice time sharing tips, tricks, talking about one-shots, talking about Curse of Strahd, talking about Out of the Abyss, all the things. So definitely think about joining us. You can find the link to join our Discord at linktree.com/themadnesstable. You can also find our other social media links there, including our TikTok. And boy howdy, Andrew Walker has been killing it on TikTok, posting the most random mad memes you had ever seen. So definitely consider following us there as well. Lastly, if you've made it this far, consider leaving us a 5-star review in whatever podcatcher you're currently listening. 5-star reviews are instrumental in pushing us up the charts and getting us in new listeners, which is really what we're looking for to get the name out there. So consider doing that for us. We would be forever in your debt. But that's all for now. And we will see you in the next episode when...